Hello everybody, Jeep here. So recently I bought this game called Forest Shuffle. This is not an advertisement for the game, it's just a game I've been playing recently with my wife. So it's a forest game where you have like trees and different like birds and different animals. But the thing I wanted to show you today is something I found interesting, an interesting mechanic that sort of kept me up at night, and then I wanted to figure out how it worked. So I looked up how it works online, and I found a lot of debate about it. So I wanted to try and settle the debate. So here's the rules of the game. I'm not going to teach you everything, just this most basic part. There's a deck of cards, and the way that you start the game is you break the deck of cards into 3 even piles. You can just eyeball it, it doesn't have to be exact, but you basically make 3 even piles. 2 of the piles you set aside, and then these are winter cards. So they tell you when winter is coming. Don't worry that it's written in Spanish. That's just, I live in Spain right now. But so these tell you when winter is coming. What you do is you take 2 of the cards and you shuffle them into this deck. I'm going to do this face up just so you can kind of see where they get shuffled, but normally they would be face down and hidden inside. So you take 2 cards, you shuffle them in. So there we go. We'll just call that shuffled. So you can see there's one there and one there. And then you put this card on top. Again, these would all be face down. The idea being that when you stack up the deck, you take this bottom third, all 3 of the winter is coming cards are in the bottom third, and you put the top 2/3 on top. So as you play the game, cards are coming off the top, like various cards. They would just be coming out like this. So these are all the cards in the game. Eventually, you would get through the first 2/3 of the deck, and then this winter is coming card would show up, and you'd say, oh no, we're in the bottom third of the deck, which means we're almost at the end of the game. That's sort of a warning. So then more cards would come out, just as usual. More cards would be drawn. And then eventually, you'd get to the second winter is coming card. This is your extra big warning that, oh no, at any time, as these cards are coming off, when the third winter is coming card comes up, that is the end of the game. When you see this card, the game immediately ends. There's no further play, and anything that you hope to accomplish is just done. So again, as you're playing this game, all 3 of these cards will be in the bottom third of the entire draw stack. So you have these 3/3, and one goes on top of the bottom third, and the other 2 get shuffled into the bottom third. So 2 would get shuffled in, and 1 goes on top. So the first one is a warning. We are in the bottom third. And then the other 2 are the end of the game when both are drawn. So the question I had when I was first playing this game, like after I thought about it, was, okay, so the first card of the 3 is just a signal. It doesn't, it tells us that we're in the bottom third of the deck, but it's always going to be roughly in the same place. The other 2 are random, but both are equally random events. So why do we need 2 cards? Could we just have 1 card shuffled into the random stack at the bottom third? And would 1 card be enough that it would always be in a random place? Because this card, introducing a second random card into this deck, it seems like that would have no effect. Because regardless of where this card is, this one is always going to be randomly somewhere in the deck. So does it make an actual difference in when the game ends, or is it just a secondary signal to warn people that the second card is coming? So I looked on BoardGameGeek. There's 2 big threads about this, and there's a lot of debate back and forth. People trying to solve this problem, people asking AI, people saying, no, AI is lying, or AI is telling the truth. And there's arguments on both sides that seem pretty valid. So there are definitely mathematical ways that you can try and approach this. I am a mathematician, but I forgot all mathematics, so I'm going to pretend that I don't know any mathematics. So I was thinking about this, I was laying awake at night, and then eventually it popped into my head. I think I have the correct answer. I will try to settle this debate. I know that people will endlessly debate it no matter what I said, especially because I'm not a mathematician, but I'll try to show you how I thought about the problem and how why I believe that it does matter that there's two cards rather than a single card. Eventually, that was my conclusion. So what I'm going to do to show you this is I'm going to simplify this bottom third of the deck down to a single card. So let's say in this game, instead of the deck being, several hundred cards or however many is here, it was exactly 3 cards. So we break the deck into even thirds. So this is each a third of the deck. We shuffle these 2 cards into the bottom third of the deck, and then we put this card on the bottom third of the deck, and then we stack these 2 on top, just like it was before. So we're going through the deck. We get the signal that we've reached the bottom third of the deck, and then these 2 are the random cards that are shuffled in with the final card. So what are the possibilities? The possibilities are like this. So we'll call this card A, card B, and card C. So we have A, B, C. We have A, C, B. We have B, A, C, B, C, A, C, A, B, and C, B, A. Okay, so what have we learned based on this? So these are the 3 cards. We're going to draw them in this order from left to right, okay? So possibility 1, the game, we go 1, 2, and the game ends on 3. So that's option number 1, is the game ends on 3. Option number 2, 1, 2, 3. The game ends on 3. Option 3, 1, 2, 3. The game ends on 3. 1, 2. The game ends on 2. And then the last possibilities, 1, 2. The game ends on 2. 1, 2, 3. The game ends on 3. So what you can see here is that if I counted right, less games ended on 2, more games ended on 3 in those scenarios. Now, if I only had if I had a single Winter is Coming card that signaled the bottom third of the deck, and then I had these cards instead that would only a single card that would signal the end of the game, here would be the possibilities. 1, game ends on 1. 1, game ends on 1. 1, 2, game ends on 2. 1, 2, 3, game ends on 3. 1, 2, game ends on 2. 1, 2, 3, game ends on 3. So essentially in this case, you have games ending at 1, 2, and 3 at basically equal rates because the randomness of where this card is distributed, where when you have 2 random cards here, the game more likely ends at the end, because regardless of whether this is A or B, or we have BA, AB and BA both result in the end of the game coming later. So add in more cards to this mix. So I'll shuffle in more of these cards. They are independent random events, but you have to get those independent random events twice for the game to end, rather than a single time. So when we go through this deck, we're peeling off cards. Random event A happens, random event B happens, and B is going to be the second one. But if they were reversed, where B came first and then A came first, the game would still end later. So in effect, again, I'm not using any math, I'm just using some basic logic and counting. I'm showing that having 2 cards instead of having 1 card lengthens the end of the game, and it basically makes it so that players have a little bit more time to get stuff done in the bottom third of the deck, because these random independent events, they are random and independent from each other, have to happen twice before the end of the game happens. If there were 3 cards in the bottom third of the deck and then a 4th card that was on top of the bottom third, this would make the end of the game happen even later in this bottom third, because all 3 independent random events would have to happen before the game ends. So that's basically my explanation. Having just 1 card versus having 2 cards does make a difference, and I hope that explanation makes sense. I hope maybe some people will agree with me, and maybe they can show me the math that explains this better. But in layman's terms, I think this is a decent enough clear explanation that it does make a difference. That's it. This game's really cool, by the way. I do recommend it. I'm using it a little bit to learn some of my Spanish words, like learning how to say butterfly in Spanish. Now I've seen enough butterflies that I know it's mariposa. So yeah, that's it. Thanks everybody for watching, and I hope this somewhat settles the debate. Thanks everybody. Bye.